Hi there. My name is Kim Nixon. Welcome to my live streaming studio. I have been teaching yoga classes for Maine General since 2014. And because of this whole closure of everything for the past year, I decided to do a little series of videos um, on the therapeutic applications of yoga. So I've been a yoga teacher since 2012. I've been a massage therapist since 2009. Prior to that, I worked for state government for 29 years. So this is the very last class in this series. This is on yoga for digestion. So, as most of us know, we're very, very aware that food plays a huge role in our digestion, what we eat. Um, but there are also lots of ways that we can affect our digestion through yoga. So many of us, the other things that come into play with digestion are our general constitution. Like some of us are more prone to slow digestion, constipation issues. Others of us are. Our digestion is too fast or too fiery. Think about things like heartburn. So, again, food is number one. But the other factors, there are lots of factors, lots of things that are within our control. So, stress is probably the number one factor that doesn't always feel like it's in our control. But that we can do something about by, as I call it, massaging our nervous system. So, yoga for digestion, what can we do to help our digestion? Anything that calms the nervous system, anything at all. So, whenever we are practicing yoga, any yoga, um, or when we're practicing meditation, or when we're practicing qigong, or when we're practicing yoga nidra, or we're having a sound healing or a massage or a reiki session, all of those things bring our nervous system back into balance. Um, it stays into balance as much as we're able to maintain that. But the breath is always huge. That's the one thing that we have accessible to us all the time, 24 hours a day, that we can use to affect our nervous system. So, our nervous system, I like to say, is kind of a resources hog. So, this is in regard to stress. We have all heard, I'm sure, the expression, my stomach is tied in knots. And usually, when someone says that, it's because of stress. We all know their stomach is not actually physically tied into knots, but the stress is affecting the belly, or most likely even the digestion as well. Um, so, breath, number one, accessible to us to reboot the nervous system. So, with the nervous system, um, it's not actually the nervous system that is the resources hog, it's the stress that puts that strain on the nervous system. Because when we are in our fight or flight state, when we're stressed, um, our nervous system is using so many resources to maintain that. Whereas when we're in our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest and digest state, um, that speaks for itself. Rest and digest. So, more resources when we're calm, when we're not stressed, more resources can be dedicated to all of the other systems of the body, the digestive system, musculoskeletal system, everything. So, what we can do for digestion in yoga, anything that calms the nervous system, movement and core work to increase the Agni. So, in Ayurveda, the sister science to yoga, um, the Agni is the most important thing in the system of Ayurveda, maintaining the Agni, maintaining the digestive fire. So we do that in a lot of ways. Some has to do with food, which of course we are not covering today. Um, but the piece that's within our control is movement and core work to increase our digestion. Anything that stimulates or creates compression in the digestive organs. So think about it, because American lifestyle, many of us work at desks, work in front of computers, and then even when we're not at work, we're in that same position, still, this position, driving a car, eating our dinner, we're on our screens, so we're always all sort of folded forward and crunched up in this whole area. So anything that lengthens the front line of the body, anything that creates compression because it brings awareness to and stimulates the digestive organs. Um, so twists, hip circles, and those postures that open the front line of the body. So that's what we're doing today. A whole bunch of those things. And as I always say in these videos, I try to pick the best of the best that I think that can help the most in a short period of time, the most information that I can share in a short period of time. So all you will need for practice today is a blanket, and either a bolster or a couple of bed pillows or a couple of throw pillows. And anyone, anybody can do this practice that we're doing today. So we're going to start by coming right down onto our backs. So if you're seated on a blanket, just move that to the side. We're going to come down on our backs because that lengthens the front line of the body. And I'm just going to guide us through some 3-part yogic breath to relax the nervous system to start right out. So making your way down onto your backs, coming right into Shavasana, if that is comfortable for your body. And the first thing that you're going to feel in this simple posture of just lying on our backs is you're probably going to feel a little lengthening in the abdominal area. So this is where our psoas muscles live, our hip flexor muscles, and tightness in those hip flexor muscles creates tightness in that area that houses our digestive organs. So just bringing the arms out to the sides, away from the bodies a bit, palms turned open if you can, feet and legs not tight together. So bring them apart a bit, at least hip width apart with the feet. If you have back issues and it causes you pain to lie in this position, it is very likely that you have even more tightness in these psoas muscles. These hip flexor muscles are very deep in the body. So just dropping in here for a moment, and we're going to come right into the 3-part yogic breath. If you've done yoga before at all, you are probably familiar with this breath. You may or may not have done it lying on your backs in Shavasana. It's just we have more space here when our front is completely open, the front line of our body. So on the inhale, trying to guide that breath into the base of the lungs, drawing the lungs into the belly. So you feel the belly lift a little bit, and then expanding the rib cage, and then expanding the chest cavity. And then exhaling, trying to exhale from the belly first, and then the rib cage, and then the chest, and maybe even drawing the navel toward the spine on the exhale. So inhaling belly, ribs, and chest. And exhaling belly, ribs, and chest. And just continue with this. Try and relax your facial muscles. Relax the back of your neck. Inhaling belly, ribs, and chest. And exhaling belly, ribs, and chest. Most of us in our workplace don't have a space where we can just lie down flat like this in the middle of our workday. But boy, if we did, that's what I would recommend, to literally reboot the nervous system mid workday. But this can also be done seated in a chair. The difference there is that we won't necessarily, so that's why we always align the spine in yoga when we're in a seated position. It's to free up space in the front line of the body as much as anything. Just a couple more. Inhaling belly, ribs, and chest. And exhaling belly, ribs, and chest. And on your final breath, notice the wave here as the front body lifts to make space for that breath. And as the front body compresses to expel that breath. So you can practice this anytime, lying on your back. Breath work like this instantly reboots the nervous system because or another aspect of this is that we're giving our brain something to think about besides our work or our worries or our to-do lists or our deadlines, because our mind has to actually focus in order to be able to break this breath down into these three parts. So engaging the core here, bringing the soles of the feet to the mat, making your way all the way over onto one side or the other, core still engaged, and pressing your way up to seated, and then coming all the way up to table. So in table, full expression of the hands on the mat. So we have that nice foundation rather than the hands crunched up. If you have wrist issues, you can just rock your way back into the knees a bit. So wrists directly under the shoulders. If you can, knees directly under the hips. And we're just going to drop into cat-cow. So on your inhale, tailbone lifts, belly drops, crown of the head lifts. So just this dropping of the belly, we are actually freeing up a little space for the organs. On the exhale, tailbone rounds under, navel draws toward the spine, back rounds, head drops. Just continue with this movement. So with this movement also, because it focuses really on our torso, on our spine and our torso, we are freeing up space for our digestion. So we're also freeing up the tight muscles, the erector muscles at the back of the body. From here, coming back to your table, we're just going to make our way up to standing. So you can either make your way up to standing on your own, or you can come up through down dog with me. I'm going to cue this out. Pressing back through the base of the hands towards your knees, base of the hands, base of the thumb, and the base of the index finger. elbow creases roll toward each other, and then start to lift your body weight and press yourself back. I recommend for those new to this practice keeping the knees bent. Down dog will feel awkward for a really long time. It felt awkward for me, I bet, for 3 or 4 years of my practice. So bent into the knees, tilt the tailbone upward, navel's drawing toward the spine, hands might be starting to slip. Notice if you've activated those arms, elbow creases rolling toward each other. Then you can start to straighten one leg at a time, pressing one heel at a time toward the mat, walking your dog. And we're really just, this is just always the transition in yoga, or generally the transition to come up to standing. So walking the feet toward each other, walking the hands back. Stop right here for a moment and bend into the knees a bit and drop the head. So when we're bent in the knees, it protects our lower back. But what you may also feel here, what I feel in my body and what you may feel, is a compression in that lower belly area. So that also is excellent for digestion. It just helps to stimulate the digestion. Drop the head, roll up one vertebra at a time, and roll the shoulders back. And we're not really going to do a lot up here. We're going to do some hip circles, and we're going to do some twists. So bringing the feet a little more than hip width apart, so not wide. Hip width apart is about a fist, so just a little bit wider than that for now. And soften in the knees, because you can adjust heels in or toes in, wherever it feels good for you to be soft in the knees. And then we're just going to start to do some hip circles here and really kind of exaggerate them. Soft knees, because it helps us to move. If I had my knees locked, I wouldn't be able to move at all here. So actually using those knees a bit to make this movement, and pressing the pelvis forward a bit in the forward motion of these circles, and switching directions. And it doesn't really matter how big or how small. It matters that your legs are not locked. I'll tell you, I will often do this after dinner at night. This is like it's a simple little movement, but this is like one of my little evening practices that I often do. And then just shake it out. Bring the feet a tiny bit wider, bend into the knees. And I may even bring my feet a little wider than this, but I'm just gonna see. We're just gonna start to twist the body a little bit, very gently. And then add the arms. Let the arms swing. Simple as that. And then as my arm comes to the front, I'm just gonna tap my shoulder. Make sure knees are soft. I'm going to step my feet a little wider because I'm going to bring my knees into this a little bit more. And now as the arm swings back, as the hand swings back, tap the kidney area, which is basically just the lower back. So stimulating the kidney. And then take your neck into this movement, so that you're looking back over that shoulder as you twist and breathing. And slowly coming back to center. We're just going to make our way right down to our mats with a half sun salutation. So bringing, just because it's an easy transition, so bringing those feet to hip width apart, about the width of a fist. And start to align the spine here. So stretching up, make yourself as tall as you actually are. We're so used to being crunched in our chairs and in our cars. Inhaling up, core engaged, exhale to prayer. Drop those shoulders. Inhale, slight back bend. Exhale, swan dive to open the shoulders just because. And bending into the knees. And just making your way down to table again. And from here, we're going to just make our way right down to our bellies. So however you can do that, the only rule is that elbows have to stay close to the body. If you practice yoga, you might come down through a modified chaturanga. And if not, you might just come straight down to your elbows. So we're coming into a Sphinx pose. Very common pose that I teach in almost every single yin class I teach. Will almost always do Sphinx. So elbows under the shoulders. What we're trying to do here is get the arms and the chest to relax a bit. So if your elbows are too far out, your arm muscles and your chest muscles aren't going to be relaxed. And if your elbows are too far back, same thing. It's going to be more like you're doing a push-up. So elbows as close to under the shoulders, maybe a bit ahead of the shoulders as you can. And I'm just going to relax in here. So I'm going to relax my hamstrings, relax my glutes, relax my belly down and my head forward. First things first, note the compression that you feel in the lower back. A little bit of compression is fine. If you're feeling really, really uncomfortable, I would recommend bringing that bolster or that pile of bed pillows or throw pillows in under the chest armpit area and just make yourself comfortable. So you can see, so whichever posture you've chosen, and I've had students that have had fusion in their backs or have had back injuries that actually can't do this modified posture. So I have them come all the way down to a pillow on the hands. And if you don't practice some type of opening practice like yoga in your bodies, then our bodies are they're just very tight. So whichever one is right for you, dropping in. And what's going on in this posture? It's a bit of a back bend. That part is obvious. The other thing that's going on is a lengthening in the front line of the body and a bit more of a lengthening than what we experienced at the beginning in our Shavasana with the breath. Breathing in, breathing out. Maybe close the eyes to bring the awareness inward to see what you feel. And then on your own, this is something you could practice anytime. You could create a daily practice where you lie down after dinner on your living room floor while you're watching your Netflix or whatever it is that you do. Like, we don't need a lot of space, time space, in order to do a posture like this. I'll often do this when I get into bed at night and just actually I'll take a stretch, not actually do the posture, but I'll bring my elbows in under my shoulders and I'll take a little twist, a tiny, tiny twist. So dropping that right hip toward the mat and turning my head to the left, and you might feel a little bit of a stretch there in that right inner hip. And then I'll come back around and I'll drop my left hip a bit and turn my head to the right and feel that stretch in the left. So from here, we're just going to make our way up to seated however you can. You may want that blanket. So if you don't have a practice like this, if your body is tight, you're going to want a blanket under your sits bones. And just bringing the soles of the feet out in front of you before we drop in. We're just going to drop into a bit of a seated windshield wiper. So I'm sort of reclined back into my hands, just dropping the knees from side to side. Again, always listening to our bodies. Nothing should hurt here ever. And then make your way up to seated and drop the knees. So I'm actually coming into a sort of a deer pose is what this is called. But how you come into it is just drop the knees off to the right. So this left leg, my left leg is more behind, my right leg is more in front. I'm a little bit tipped off to the right here. So you might bring that left knee a little bit closer. Depends on the body. We're going to take a little bit of a twist toward this right leg. Hands on either side of that right knee. And just dropping in here. Dropping into just a little bit of circling. So a tiny bit of circling around that knee, using my hands to support myself. And this is just a tiny bit of stimulation for the abdominal area. I'm going to move my leg back to where I'm used to having it. So this is just really a baby twist, switching directions with those circles. And then we're going to drop right down into a collapsed swan. So for you, that might simply mean walking the hands out a bit further. This is body to body. Going to look different, body to body. So listen to what you feel. You might drop down a little deeper. So this is both a little bit of a twist and also creating compression in those internal organs. Depending on what version you are in of this, you might be higher. That is fine. It's just body to body. See if you can relax your neck somehow. This is a collapsed swan, and we do this quite often. So in a yin yoga practice, we would be doing these postures for 3 or 4 minutes. I'm really just, this isn't a yin yoga practice. This is more of a demonstration video. So just a short period of time, making your way back up. Bringing the hands behind, bringing the soles of the feet in front, and dropping into your windshield wiper again. Breathing in through the nose, out through the nose, which is how we always breathe in a yoga practice, because it comes back to that nervous system thing, that stress thing. So dropping the knees now off to the left. And turning your body over that left knee. And just dropping into some little circles here. So opening up the hip muscles and the hip joints is part of what we're doing here in a very gentle way, switching directions, tightness in the hips. So the QL muscle, the hip hiker muscle, that is a deep muscle in our outer lower back back area, outer lower back hip area. And the psoas muscle, which is in the front, also a very deep muscle. So very, very slowly coming into your collapsed swan, and it might just be walking the hands forward a bit. Or it might be coming down low. And just breathing and just feeling any compression that you might feel as this, the tissue of your belly, the tissue of your abdomen comes against the tissue of your thigh. Again, we're also opening up hip joint area, so that actual joint on this left side. Then making your way all the way back up here. Bringing the legs out in front again. Dropping into a little windshield wiper again. And we're just going to make our way all the way down onto our backs. All the way down onto our backs. And leave the soles of the feet on the mat. We're just going to draw the right knee in. And just hold the knee with the hands, or you can even, if your body is a little tighter, you can hold at the back of the hamstrings. And all we're going to do is extend now out through that left leg to open up that abdominal area, the groin area, the hip flexor area inside that left hip. Extend out through the crown of the head. So what happens often as we reach for this knee is our head tips back so that the crown of the head is coming toward the earth, but just stretch out through your cervical spine so the back of your neck is not all crunched up. Breath in, breath out. And then from here, left hand holds the knee, right hand extends out to the side. This, a single knee twist is a very deep twist. So that's not what I'm teaching here. We're just going to do a part of a twist here. So left hand to the outside of the right knee, start to turn the head to the right. The arm is extended out the right side for balance. And we're just going to bring this knee a little ways across the body. Turn the head all the way. And you're going to feel a stretch, maybe all the way into your lower back, the QL muscle, the hip joint. Breathing in, breathing out. Bringing that knee back to center, dropping the sole of that right foot down, bringing the left foot back in. And this time, reaching for that left knee. Notice what your head and neck are doing. Stretch out through the neck. And then extend that right leg right out straight along the floor. See if you feel a bit of a stretch, maybe at the top of the quadricep muscle, maybe inside that right hip bone a little bit. And just take a couple of breaths. And then right hand holding the left knee, left hand coming out to the side. And starting to roll just a tiny bit onto your right side, bringing that left knee just a little bit across the body. If we had, if this were an actual class and we had done some twisting preparation, so again, this is a very deep twist. Which is why I'm not recommending if you have this in your practice and you're perfectly able to bring that left knee all the way to the floor, feel free. Most people are not. But I want you to notice this deep stretch going on in this whole glute and hip joint area on the left. And probably all the way up into the left side of the lower back, which is where the hip hiker muscle lives. So these hip muscles are tend to be chronically very tight and or overstretched, again from that whole American lifestyle piece, us always sitting in chairs for our work. Bringing that knee back to center. Drop the sole of the foot down. Bring that right sole of the foot in with the arms extended. Just drop into one last little round of windshield wiper here on your back. So this is a very, very gentle way of twisting. And you don't really need to know anything about yoga in order to do this. No alignment because it doesn't matter where the soles of the feet are. I'm rolling my head in the opposite direction that my knees are dropping. Knees don't have to come all the way to the floor. And then bringing your knees all the way to one side and pressing your way all the way back up to seated. So I hope that this has helped you a bit. Any of the classes in this series. So this is the 7th class in the Therapeutic Applications of Yoga series. If there's something here that you would like to expand on, you can join me for class anytime. So I teach one live class right now. Can't wait to get back to teaching live classes at Maine General when things open up. I also teach live streaming classes, 5 live streaming classes a week, right from this studio, Monday through Saturday. I also have an on-demand library, which is literally a collection of the live streaming classes that I've taught in this last year, because this whole online studio piece, live streaming piece is brand new to me with the pandemic. This isn't how I used to teach. This is how I teach now. So thank you for joining me. You can find anything and everything you want to know about me and my classes at kimnixonyoga.com. Namaste.